We recently took a trip across the Northeast, traveling 3,700 miles in 10 days, visiting 16 states and 3 Canadian provinces. And we only spent one night in a hotel. But now to think about it, that was probably not even necessary. To do this, we had to have a vehicle to sleep in, one that was a little bit larger than a car. So we rented a 2023 Chrysler Pacific minivan. And we had to make some quick changes so we could sleep in the back. First off, removing the rear seats and leveling out the back four was a must. After thinking up a few options, the easiest was just to lift everything up a few inches with some wood, which also gave us some additional storage underneath. If you want a little more in-depth about the wood frame and how it works, I'll show you a little bit on that in a minute. After the stage was complete, we needed a soft bed to sleep on. So we had a combination of foam and thick padding to make it comfortable. A cheaper substitute might be some outdoor cushions, which usually get discounted in the wintertime. This extra cushion also made it a little bit easier on our knees when we had to climb into the back every night. For our clothing storage, we used an under-the-bed rolling tote that folded in the middle. This was great for dividing up our clothes on each side, and the rollers made it perfect for easy access. For privacy, on the side and front windows, we used some blackout curtains hanging from bungee cords with some binder clips. And at the rear, we used the door itself and some magnetic hooks to hold the curtain in position. This setup kept anyone from seeing us while we slept. Plus, they were great with blocking the light from the street lamps. Now, my camera is pretty good with low light settings, and as you can see here, the back of the van was quite dark. And from the outside, it looked like an empty vehicle rather than 2 people camping out. This allowed us to sleep in parks and gas stations without being disturbed even once. Looking at the passenger side of the bed, there was a small gap that allowed you to sit up and put your feet on the floor if needed. Plus, this worked as additional storage as we drove. I will show a little bit more about this option when I'm talking about the frame. Now at night, it was a good idea to keep a little air moving so we did not get hot. And it was completed by a battery operated fan. I happen to have a Rigid brand, but any good quality fan should work as long as you can bring a couple good batteries. For lighting, we used a small LED flashlight that hung with a hook overhead. This gave us enough light to see in the back without showing the world that we were inside. These lights are usually inexpensive and you can usually pick them up at almost any store. And if you cannot find this flashlight, another option for you to use can be a hanging LED bulb with a USB plug-in. For food, we had a large cooler which sat next to the side door and a bunch of dry goods which sat behind the front seats. This allowed us to occasionally stop along the way to pick up some additional ice and snacks. When it came to restroom breaks, we mostly stopped at service stations and restaurants. But we did bring a 5-gallon bucket along for emergencies. And I hate to admit this, but it did come in handy on a couple occasions. As for keeping clean, we found the best solution to be Arm & Hammer face and body wipes. They surprisingly kept us fresh throughout the ride, and we recommend them for anyone on long trips. Overall, sleeping in the back of this van felt a lot more like a small room or maybe a glamping tent than it did the back of a vehicle. And we definitely plan on using this setup for future trips, which is why I made it transferable to other vehicles. And depending on your camping style, you might also want to consider a bucket for cleaning utensils for the kitchen, or maybe even a laundry bucket that you can just throw all those dirty clothes in.
Laundry, closet rather, hers and his, and it rolls. Utility bag, entertainment stuff, plates, utility items. Backpack carry around. Dry pantry items, freezer cooler, refrigerator cooler, bathroom bag, always organized, extra water, extra drinks, kitchen items, cooking stove, things of that nature, odor banner, because that happens, bathroom container, netting, we didn't actually need this trip, jackets, because we went to multiple different temperature climates, laundry bag, entertainment bag.
Now let's move to the construction and show you just how easy it was to build. To get this to work, I had to actually build a flat platform since the floor might be a little bit hard to see here, but the back half here is a good bit higher than the front. So I had to level everything off. These are 2x10s that just happen to fit perfectly, and I just kind of made some custom boards for the back. Here, I'll show you over here. That I just screwed together. This is a 2x4, and I think this is 2 inches across. I can't remember exactly, But I had to get this so it would be nice and level. As you can see across there, it's pretty level going all the way across. Now let me show you under here. I hinged the sides in a couple places there so that this can go up and down really easily like so, and so we can get a lot more storage under here. Now to hold this up, I just have, this is just a long dowel. I think it's a 1-inch dowel. It sits against kind of the plastic part of the frame over here on the floor, and just rests up against this with just enough room to see in there. And that way we have plenty of room to put storage and extra stuff as we need it. And come around to the other side here, you can see that where it is built up a little bit there. And if you'll notice, this is actually offset. And I did that on purpose so that as the bed, when it comes down, or the platform when it comes down, there's extra room over here on the side so we can put our feet or extra storage or whatever we need. Looking up here at the front, same thing. I have this spaced back from the seats so that there's extra storage and extra places to put stuff. And of course, we have the little roller, little under the bed cabinet, I guess you call it, that slides in and out under here and just gives us plenty of storage so that we can have a great place to sleep. It's really nice and firm, and a ton of storage. When I assembled most of this frame, I just used pocket screws, as you can see there. Now you have the main cross pieces here so that the plywood I'm using does not warp in the center. It stays nice and firm. I also did a couple pieces that just come out on the side. They don't have a lot of weight to them, so I just have a couple pocket screws right there. But this kind of keep the sides from warping down as well. When I connected the back part of the frame to the front piece here, again, just use some pocket screws, but this would be a lot of weight just to put on some pocket screws, since this will what actually hinge down if you were to put a lot of weight or step right here. So I added just a support block down here on the bottom, just to give it a little bit more support. These screws should keep it connected to the front, and these will just keep it from flexing down. Now you'll notice I have blocks here. As the top part of the frame, or the back half, comes down, I just added a couple blocks. Since I have it real thin here on the front piece, it's a little hard to see. I can show you there. There's not much for this plywood to rest on, and I didn't want to take a chance for, again, this to flex on the ends, so I just added a piece here and one over there. Looking at this front section, to help support this plywood, let's look underneath here. You'll see some 2x4s. I actually have 3 of them going front to back, again using pocket screws. Not only does it support the plywood, but it gives strength to the side legs. It doesn't allow them to flex nearly as much so they don't fall over into use. If you notice, I do not have anything on the bottom connecting it, and that's so we can have our clothes basket can slide in and out really easily. You can also see where the back seats, or the middle seats of this minivan, used to be. I just took the seats out for this trip. That way they can easily be put back in place. Now, one of the most important things about this setup is the ability to actually remove it and return this to a minivan. Now, if you remove, there's 2 pocket screws on this leg and 2 pocket screws on this one. This back half can now slide out, and the front half can go out one of the side doors. That way we can return it as a minivan and use this in this van over and over, or anything that looks somewhat similar. Here's one more look at the frame when it's in a down position. You'll notice this is almost perfectly straight across, so that any kind of cushion you add on it will just make that nice and smooth. Now, of course, you'll notice right across here that that side sticks out a little bit, and this side does as well. I did this on purpose. On this side over here, we wanted as much room for a bedding as possible, and so I probably could have had a little bit more of a curved piece there if I had a little extra time to build this, but this was a quick build. But that way when the door is shut, we don't have to worry about our pillows and stuff falling off the sides there. Now on this side, again, I left room over here, so for floor room and some other kind of storage, but I purposely left this sticking out so that anytime I had to slam on the brakes, all that stuff doesn't come slamming forward and hit anybody or anything up here. It just comes stopping right there. Also, there is extra room right here. Of course, for a cooler, I needed that so we could easily access it really quickly. Here's a word of caution for this setup. You'll notice that there's a little bit of a gap on the side, a little bit of gap from the back door. We don't want the wood to actually touch these sides because the vibration of this going down the road, the wood and these little hinges here will eat into that plastic and destroy it. So make sure if you're going to build something like this, make sure you have a little gap all the way around so you don't mess up all your panels. This frame is not attached to the floor in any way. You don't see any kind of hinges or any kind of brackets holding it down. It is literally just freestanding on the carpet of this minivan. Now, we just did a 3,700 mile. That's over 3,700 miles in 10 days. And this frame is exactly where I put it when I first installed it. Here's one last view of the back with the frame in the down position. You can see the extra space over here for storage. This kind of setup should work in about any minivan as long as you can either remove the seats or have them fold into the floor. Now, this right here is a rental. This is not our vehicle. This is a 2023 Chrysler Pacifica, and it worked out perfect with it. And if you have anything about this size, you should be able to build a frame somewhat similar to fit inside. Now, the great thing about it is I can remove this. We can return this car, and same time next year, if we decide to take another trip, put this back in place. We have a great place to sleep. Don't have to worry about building anything. And I didn't put any extra miles on my vehicle. There you go. And once you take the wood out and you put all the chairs back, nobody will be the wiser that this used to be a camping van.